We're learning two different types of constructions today, and really three, but it's kind of only two processes. And the two things that we're going to be doing is we're going to be constructing with our contractor how to make parallel lines and how to make perpendicular lines. So if we remember our symbols, it's good to note these. Parallel looks like that, and perpendicular is like that. Now, read your directions close so you know which one you're doing. Construction number 1 says, construct the line that's parallel to the given line, and that goes through this point right here. Okay, so I'm going to go through the process with you one time. If you need to review it, rewind, pause, whatever. The first thing you want to do is make a giant angle out of this thing. So I'm going to connect the end of the arrow here through the point. And remember, with constructions, it's always better to make your lines longer rather than shorter. So it's okay if you're covering up some words there. Make a giant angle. Then you bring your brass circle, and I'm going to label this down here as point A. Bring your brass circle to point A down here, and you're going to make an arc. So we kind of did this process when we did constructions before, and I'm just going to choose 30 because it's right there. It's easy to remember. I'm going to make an arc and make it big enough so it hits the angle in two different places. I'm going to call the floating point here B, and I want my parallel line to look something like this. I mean, it's got to be a line that's through B that looks parallel to this line. So that's what I'm aiming for. What I'm going to do, though, is bring the brass circle to B, and I'm going to make the exact same arc at 30. So I'm looking at something like this. Now, what I need to do, so where my first arc hit the angle, I'm going to call this top point C. This right here, and I'm really just copying this exact picture up here. This is my new C right here. I just need to figure out where to put, we'll call this point D. I need to figure out where to put point D on this second little arc here. So I'm going to measure between C and D down here. And remember, to measure, we put the brass circle at one point. So I'm going to put the brass circle at C. And then I'm going to measure which one of these radius holes goes right over point D. So if you used 30, we should all have the same. And it looks like 27 goes right over D. So I'm going to slide the brass circle not to point B, go past that up here, all the way to the top. And I'm going to mark 27. We got a little bit of a glare. There we go. It's a little bit better. I'm going to mark 27. And that's where I want to put my point D, right here. All I have to do now is connect B through that new point to make a line, and that's my parallel line. And it may or may not look perfect. Mine looks pretty good. I kind of went a little high when I drew the line, but that's exactly what you want. Now, if you kind of think about what kind of angles we created, so there's my parallel lines. We just created corresponding angles. Which is kind of good to know, and hopefully you can recognize that. Got corresponding angles there. Okay. For the next one, now we shift over into the perpendicular. So this says construct the line perpendicular to the given line through the given point. So I need to draw a line that looks something like that. It goes through that point, and it makes a right angle with the line they gave me. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Remember, for perpendicular, when we did constructions the first unit, that was like the fish thing when we did perpendicular bisectors. So you kind of have to do that same thing, but there's one step before it. the first thing you have to do is center this point on the line. So you're going to put the brass circle over the point that you want the line to go through. And you're going to draw like a giant U, if you will. So it doesn't really matter which point you use. It just has to be a point that's going to hit the line. So I'm going to go with 40 just because it's a bit bigger than 30. And you get a little awkward with your hand here. Oop, I didn't go far enough. Okay, so I did something like this, and really I should have picked probably a circle bigger than I did, but that's okay, this worked. Okay, so your big circle should hit the line in two different places. So mine hit here and here. I'm going to call that A and B. You kind of forget about the rest of the line. You just care about A and B, and now you're going to do the fish thing from these 2 points. Okay, so forget about that, forget about that. To do the fish thing, I'm going to put the brass circle on A, and I'm going to pick a point that goes over halfway. So I'm going to use 40 again because that is definitely going to go over halfway. And I make like a big arc. I'm going to bring my brass circle to B, and I'm going to do the exact same arc at 40. And make it big enough so that way you get that fish looking thing here. Okay, where your two little fish marks met, you want to draw your line through those points, and your line should go right through that floating point from the original picture, and it should make a right angle with the line they gave you. So that pink line that I just drew, that's my perpendicular line. The last construction on the back, it's still talking about perpendicular, okay, so you still have to do the fish thing. The only difference is that the point is on the line instead of being below it or above it, but it's the exact same process. So you start by putting the brass circle on the point, and you make like a big U that hits the line in 2 places. And it seems safe to stick with 40 again, so make it big enough so that it hits the line in 2 spots. I'm going to call that A and call that B. And you want to do then the fish thing, so you ignore the rest of the line. You want to do the fish thing from those 2 points. So put your brass circle on A. I need to go over halfway, so I'm going to be safe and use 60 this time. So make a big arc at 60. Bring the brass circle to B and make the exact same arc at 60. And you'll have your fish looking thing. Don't mind the bell. Where your fish met, you connect those 2 points and you've got your perpendicular line. And if you did it right, it should go right through the point and it will make a right angle.